Today we celebrate the men and women who have dedicated their lives to educating our population, our teachers. We salute their work, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, which calls for them to retool in order to impart knowledge. And as our teachers return to school online, of course, we wish them all the best in their quest to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Whenever you hear the following tone, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, will be giving information on an emergency situation affecting the island. Please be on the alert and listen to your radio and television for further information. This was a test of the emergency alert system, brought to you by ODPEM.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, October 5. Public schools resumed lessons today, with students remaining at home and receiving the teaching and learning experience in a number of different ways. With in-class teaching prohibited due to the COVID-19 pandemic, lessons are being delivered through a number of approaches, namely online classes through the Google Learning Management System and the broadcasting of lessons on dedicated free-to-air and cable television channels as well as radio stations. The Education Ministry is also providing learning kits for students to utilize, along with their textbooks and worksheets at home. In her back-to-school message on Sunday, Minister Favour Williams said the ministry was prioritizing psychosocial programs for the first 3 days of school to ensure that students are in the right state of mind for the academic activities.
The psychosocial sessions will seek to address their mental health and well-being, improve their capacity to cope with the emotional challenges, and will help to mitigate the impact of the stresses in their environment.
In an earlier press briefing, the minister said the psychosocial plan, which was being developed by the Guidance and Counseling Unit, would guide interventions during the first term of the new academic year.
The unit will continue to support guidance counselors to develop and implement psychosocial plans at the school level, and will monitor the progress for greater impact. All schools are expected to implement a psychosocial plan.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Education says the full complement of textbooks needed by schools for the new academic term has been provided. Minister Williams says $826 million is being spent on the acquisition of textbooks, including electronic books and learning apps. At the lower primary level, that is grades 1 to 3, the usual workbooks are being provided for integrated studies and mathematics. For the first time, the ministry is also providing workbooks for the upper primary level at grades 5 and 6.
This initiative, we believe, will assist in alleviating the financial challenges being faced by parents during this COVID-19 pandemic.
The minister was addressing a recent virtual press conference. Additionally, secondary students in grades 7 to 11 will have access to hard copy workbooks and textbooks. The ministry will be piloting e-books and other e-content for the various subject areas at a cost of approximately $200 million.
38,000 e-books are being procured for the new school year for the specified subject areas at the secondary level. So for the grade 9 students, there will be e-books available in the separate science. For grades 7 to 11, e-books will be available in the English language. For grades 10 and 11 students, e-books will be available in Principles of Business. And again, for grades 10 and 11 students as well, there'll be e-books in Principles of Accounts.
Government is moving to install smart boards in lockup facilities and have more virtual hearings in the criminal justice system. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says the installation of smart boards will allow persons in police lockups to participate in virtual hearings and trials without the need to physically transport them to court.
We are working with the Ministry of National Security to have a smart board in the prisons, in the jail houses. We have them in the courts? No. So that accused persons can remain in the lockups. And at the lockups, they can see exactly what is happening in the court. They can see their attorney mentioning their cases or applying for bail. And eventually, I hope, trials can be done virtually.
Minister Chuck was speaking last Friday at a function to hand over office equipment at the Justice Training Institute in St. Andrew. He says the staging of virtual trials will lessen the administrative work and cost associated with transporting accused persons from lockups to the courts. The minister asserts that while many Jamaicans are still getting accustomed to having virtual meetings, virtual trials will have to become the norm because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jamaica has received its first ever National Anti-Doping Mobile Unit. The newly retrofitted unit was officially handed over to the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission recently by Sports Minister Olivia Grange. The unit will allow the Commission to conduct more in-competition and out-of-competition tests in remote locations and will increase the efficiency of the National Anti-Doping Program. Minister Grange says the unit is the second in the world to be operated by a national anti-doping organization.
So, Jamaica has now introduced a unit, and the only other national anti-doping organization in the world that has a similar unit is the Japan Anti-Doping Organization. So we're very proud to be one of two.
The unit comes equipped with wheelchair ramps, support rails, restrooms for doping control, waiting areas to accommodate athletes and support personnel, as well as storage areas.
It is retrofitted to facilitate able-bodied athletes, athletes with disabilities, and Paralympians. So we cover the wide spectrum of the constituents that we have to serve.
And finally, the Transport Ministry has moved to resolve challenges with the classification and payments of COVID-19 grants to owners and operators of public passenger vehicles, PPVs, under government's We Care program. Under the program, only PPV owners and operators who were licensed by the Transport Authority up to April 30, 2020 and applied to the Ministry of Finance by June 30, 2020 would qualify for the grant. The information was disclosed following a meeting on Tuesday with the Transport Authority and representatives of the Auditor General's Department and the Ministry of Finance. The We Care program is a temporary cash transfer initiative rolled out by the Ministry of Finance in April of this year to help cushion the economic fallout on individuals and businesses impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Mommy,
Yes, Zoe?
can we read this book? It will only take 10 minutes.
Sure, sit down. Every spring, Madame Angel Wing arranges
Do you have 10 minutes? Read with your child today. Reading with your children for just 10 minutes each day helps develop their language and listening skills, stimulates their imagination, and expands their understanding of the world. So, start reading with your child today.
So, welcome back to school. Of course, these are unusual times, and our school system is looking rather different. Parents, as your children prepare for further virtual sessions tomorrow, one thing you could very well consider is applying for homeschooling. In this week's Get the Facts, we sat with the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers to explain the process. So if you need it, Get the Facts next.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm your host, Enthros Campbell. Homeschooling has always been commonplace in Jamaica, having been regulated by the Independent School Unit, ISU, in the Ministry of Education and governed by the Education Act of 1965. However, with the increase in cases of COVID-19, many persons may be thinking of homeschooling their children. But do you have everything in place to carry out what could be a life-changing project for your child? Today we are joined by Secretary of the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers, Judy Lee Panton, and she will help us through this process. Mrs. Panton, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let us start with a little background to your association.
Okay, so the association was formed in 2013 by a very small group of parents, and it has definitely mushroomed into something that, of course, prior to COVID, it has been growing steadily, but definitely with the advent of COVID, quadrupled even.
Right.
So we are now at our Facebook page, which is a closed page, features about 700, in excess of 700 members. So we work in partnership with the Ministry of Education, not necessarily governed by them.
So who is recommended for homeschooling? And why would we homeschool our child if you're not governed by the Ministry of Education?
Well, the Ministry of Education has its own sets of guidelines for homeschoolers. So it is recommended that a homeschool family who wishes, or our family who wishes to homeschool, definitely visits the independent schools unit and engage in the discussion with them and the application process with them. However, the Association of Homeschoolers, JAS for short, is primarily responsible for the educational and social support of our members. So we provide support in relation to the curriculum, guiding our families and especially parents in the process, through the homeschooling process. We facilitate socialization activities for the children who are being homeschooled. So it definitely serves a purpose to the community itself.
Who would you recommend for homeschooling?
Okay, so we recommend any parent who is committed to the growth and the holistic education of their child. It definitely requires discipline from the parent. It requires that the parent you may not have the time to teach yourself, but you definitely need to be aware of what you expect from your child's education. And so you don't necessarily, from our experience in the community, you don't necessarily have to be a trained teacher. However, the other teaching skills that are not necessarily taught in the institutions are definitely necessary for the homeschool journey.
You do not have to be an educator to homeschool your child.
No, you
Tell me about that.
So I did my degree in international relations with a minor in psychology. And several parents, families within our community have been homeschooling for years without a teaching degree. And we have found that it is the other skills that we are called upon to exercise as we go through the homeschooling process. It's really how to juggle, how to work through the kinks of interacting with the children at the different ages and so on, that really makes for an efficient and effective homeschooling experience.
Yes. But in our society, you have to pass your CSEC, your CAPE, and your CSEC subjects. How do you ensure that happens? Because it's not just about being fulfilled; it's about passing the exams that will make you do what you need to do here to get a job or to go on to university.
Yes. And so there are varying levels of exams, first of all, that a homeschool family can participate in. And therefore, it depends on the specific family, what your goals are, your educational goals are. And there are several options available for you. Within the homeschool community, you yourself, the parent, doesn't have to be the one to impart the educational information to the child. And in fact, that is just one element of the homeschooling journey. So you find that you can have a tutor come in and teach the child. You have homeschool pods or homeschool co-ops, which are basically groups of families that come together groups of families can come together with one tutor. That would be called a pod. And in the case of the co-op, those are just families that come together and teach different subjects based on their personal competencies and the areas that they're efficient in.
Right. So do you follow the curriculum from the Ministry of Education?
And that is a choice. Definitely the ministry provides its free of charge, its curriculum free of charge. It's accessible on their website. So if you choose to use that, that's fine, okay with you. But there are several others that are approved by the ministry for you to use.
Okay. Well, we take a break now. When we come back with more information on homeschooling, please stay with us. Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're talking about homeschooling with Secretary of the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers, Trudy Panton. All right, tell me exactly what is the process. So I've decided I want to homeschool my child or children. What do I do?
Okay. Well, there are, from our perspective as a community, there are several steps that you can take. From the ministry's perspective, however, the official process involves you visiting them, getting your application documentation together, and after completing that information, you hand it in. There will be an informal interview process. And of course, the ministry has their own standards and expectations in relation to how they provide approval and so forth. And they also engage in an inspection process, which is very facilitatory, and it allows for the families who are doing this for the first time definitely to get a better feel of what is expected and so forth. From the JAS position or the association's position, we definitely encourage that the families that they express a commitment to homeschooling and to their children in particular. Because as you notice with the COVID, there have been some issues that parents have been experiencing with school at home, where it is difficult for them to engage in the lessons with the children, and they're realizing that children are actually they really didn't know their children. They really did, because they wouldn't have spent, significant hours daily with their children. And so we definitely recommend as an association that before you get into the heat of it, that you take some time, relax, do your research. What is homeschooling? What is the right homeschooling technique and procedure for you? Mm-hmm. There are several different sites out there that can help you to understand the learning style of your child, to help you to understand the process better. Right. And so do your research. We encourage that. We also encourage that families establish a proper routine, a proper schedule that functions well for them. Not one that is preset or standardized. You work with the schedule that is best for your family, because a frustrated teacher is an awful one, and that is definitely the case in a home school. So those are some of the things that we encourage. We also do encourage to become a part of a support system like JAS. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but we have an established community where we provide support in any area that you can think of as it relates to homeschool.
What are the advantages, are there?
There are lots. There are definitely a lot. And I mean, time wouldn't allow, but I mean, the cost is one definite benefit. So,
less?
Yes, it is definitely less. I mean, imagine 6 children going to school, the bus fare for all of them, the lunch money, the school fees, the uniforms, and all of the things that are, wrapped up in educating a child. Mm-hmm. That is definitely curtailed a great deal with the homeschooling process. I mean, I buy one textbook and everybody shares the textbook.
Right. So I'd like to have my child homeschooled for now, the period that we're experiencing this pandemic, and then I want to integrate my child back into regular school system. How does that work?
Okay, so once you apply through the ministry, that a part of the application process does facilitate that, because you will receive at the end of the process, you'll receive an SRS card, which is supposed to ensure that you are able to sit external exams whether through a school or some other exam center that will be provided to you. The ministry will inform you a bit more directly to that.
Okay, so you would arrange that for the parent?
Ministry definitely does arrange that.
So the parent applies, does the homeschooling, the child does the homeschooling, and then at the end of that period, they would go back to the Ministry of Education, who would tell them how the next move. So they'd probably do a test and then...
So once they have completed the application and they are aware of the different, they would make themselves aware of the different ages that they need to sit exams, etc. So they definitely, when the time comes at the right age, they would simply go into the ministry and they will do their necessary applications for the exam, and they will be able to sit the exam from a school that they, that is approved.
Yes, yes.
So, and then at the CXC level, that is done independently. You don't necessarily need the ministry's instructions for that.
Any negatives?
I can't think of any yet. I've been doing it for 6 years, and I mean, the benefits have certainly outweighed anything that could be a negative. Right. I mean, it is stressful, and it does require a lot.
Right. So you have an oversight body, right?
Yes.
That will be guiding each family, and you have contact with the constant contact with the Ministry of Education.
Yes, definitely. Yes,
to ensure that the children are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Right. Okay. So as we wrap, tell us, give our parents some advice.
The advice for parents who choose to homeschool: relax. That's my first advice. Relax. It's not about standardized tests and classrooms and spaces that you need to outfit to be a class, because learning takes place anywhere.
So you need to have the right atmosphere at home.
Definitely.
And you need to be linking with the Ministry of Education to get the process done.
And do your research.
Yes. And then you're an oversight body, so you will help them.
Yes, we definitely guide our members through the process.
Okay.
And it's very easy to be a member, actually.
Tell us.
So you can email us at jamaicashomeschoolers@gmail.com, or you can contact us through, we have two contact numbers, 317-9643 or 317-9639. So any one of those options, you can contact us. We can share more with you.
Thank you so much. Lots more to talk about.
A whole lot.
All the time we have. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Secretary of the Jamaica Association of Homeschoolers, Trudy Lee Panton. Until next time, when Get the Facts brings you, as always, more pertinent and important information. I'm your host, Enthros Campbell. Thank you so very much for watching, and take good care.
The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is well on its way to achieving the goal of planting 3 million trees in 3 years. Get the details next.
Climate change is real. We must address it in order to secure our future. Our children are depending on us.
And so the government has launched an initiative which will see a tree being planted for every Jamaican on the island. These 3 million trees will be planted over a 3-year period across the length and breadth of Jamaica land we love.
Planting trees, of course, is one of the ways in which Jamaica is taking deliberate, strategic, and decisive action to mitigate the effects of climate change.
The program will be managed by the Forestry Department with support from the European Union's Development Fund.
€1 million of the total amount will be specifically dedicated to reforestation and maintenance of degraded lands, with special attention to species that are indigenous to Jamaica.
Our aim is to improve the resilience of our coasts, hillsides, and plains, while also improving the beauty of our urban centers, major thoroughfares, parks, and the added effect of offsetting greenhouse gas emissions.
All the trees that we're planting over the next 3 years will be for nothing if we don't deal with the issue of the degradation of the forests. Ladies and gentlemen, if our forests are cut down without regard for sustainable forest management, we all know that our watersheds and our water supply challenges will worsen.
The 3 Million Trees initiative will focus on 3 main areas.
It would be one that protects our coast, including mangroves, one that does general forestation, one that includes urban forestation, and on the other side,
so we're going to have a national fruit tree planting program of 3 million fruit trees to be planted as well.
In addition to 1,000 Hope interns that will benefit under the program, employment opportunities will be provided for persons from communities adjacent to areas to be planted.
Two million timber seedlings will be planted on over 3,000 hectares of land managed by the Forestry Department. The department will distribute the remaining plants, a mixture of timber and ornamentals, to the public.
We want to get more of the private sector adopting hillsides. These are lands that we manage, that we want to just take charge and be responsible for the maintenance of all of that.
To ensure that the seedlings remain viable and transition into healthy forest, a mobile app using GPS technology is being finalized. This private-public sector partnership will see the monitoring and tracking of the plant's progress.
Because it's nice that we plant the trees today, we take a lot of pictures and everything, but what happened to those trees afterwards? So we really want everybody to ensure that the trees we plant today, we return to them, ensure that they are still growing, and check on the trees we planted last year.
We are taking a different approach with this project to ensure its success. Over the next 3 years, we will be rolling out different aspects of the initiative through public education campaigns focused on the preservation of the environment.
The challenge has been thrown out. Will you answer the call? Will you dedicate a portion of your land for planting trees? Will you adopt a hillside to stop landslides? Will you ensure that the trees you've planted are nurtured? We can do it. We should do it. We must do it.
It is hope that this action will ignite in every single Jamaican the understanding, the will and the commitment to play their part in securing Jamaica's environment and making Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, do business, and retire in paradise.
And that's how we close our Jamaica Magazine, but only for today. We return tomorrow around about the same time right here on this station. We are available at your leisure online at jis.gov.jm. We maintain an active social media presence and have a mobile app that's smartphone compatible. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.